Should we negotiate with terrorists? Big news today in the effort to end the 12-year-long war in Afghanistan, as America is scrambling to save peace talks with the Taliban and the Afghan government. They were scheduled to begin today, but now critics are asking why America would sit down with the Taliban, the same group that earlier this month, just this month, beheaded two boys, 10 and 16 years old, on charges that they were spying for the police. They were found scavenging for food in trash bins near police headquarters. And never mind the shooting of 15-year-old Malala Yousafzai. That gained national attention. The Pakistani schoolgirl had the nerve to advocate for girls getting an education, so she was shot in the head by the Taliban. This group is also responsible for the beheading of 17 people because they went to a co-ed party where there was music and dancing. How exactly does one sit down and negotiate with these people? How do you trust their word? How do you make any progress whatsoever? Why are we even considering it? Ralph Peters is a Fox News strategic analyst and author of Hell or Richmond. And Mark Thiessen is a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and former speechwriter for President George W. Bush. So, I mean, you tell me, Ralph, how it's like, okay, so I know you behead people because they go to a co-ed party. There's no judge, there's no jury, you're just the executioner. And we try to make progress with them on American policy and things that are important to the United States?
Well, Megan, if this were not so tragic, it'd be a perfect skit for a Monty Python reunion. The United States does not negotiate with terrorists. Well, okay, but we're going to negotiate with the Taliban. And now the administration's arguing that, well, maybe we should declassify them as terrorists. Maybe the Taliban aren't really terrorists, despite everything you've just listed. I mean, it's really just perverse. And the bottom line of these negotiations is they're not about Afghanistan. They're about giving the administration a fig leaf, a piece of paper guaranteeing peace in our time so Obama can complete the pullout of the surge troops he ordered in, clean up the mess he created, and come home, and when Afghanistan returns to the civil war into which we stepped, he can say, but they promised they wouldn't do that. Pathetic.
Mark, we were going to have our meeting with Karzai, then the Taliban wanted it, and there was an internal dust-up in Afghanistan between Karzai and the Taliban about who's going to be where and who had power and who didn't. In any event, what the Taliban is now saying it wants from us is the release of 5 prisoners at Gitmo, according to the Associated Press. And in exchange, they are reportedly saying that they will release one American soldier that they have, and Bergdahl is his name, Sergeant Bo Bergdahl, 27, of Idaho. So they say they'll release him if we release 5 prisoners from Gitmo, and this is the first agenda item on their list before they even open peace talks with us. Do we go there?
We should definitely not go there. Look, these 5 people who are in Guantanamo that they want released are 5 truly murderous, dangerous terrorists. They include the deputy defense minister, the deputy interior minister, the former acting interior minister, the deputy minister of intelligence. Many of these 5 have been accused of war crimes by the United Nations. They all have ties to Al Qaeda, according to our intelligence officials, and they are assessed. All of them are assessed as going back to the fight if they are released. So what the Taliban is doing here is that they're trying to do 2 things. One, they're trying to get us to release their top commanders that we hold so that they can go back to the fight. And 2, they're trying to wait out an administration where the president has said in a speech that the Afghan war is about to end. They're trying to give him cover to withdraw all of his troops so that they can take these new commanders, go back to the battlefield, and take over Afghanistan once we've left. So this is all about getting the U.S. out so they can take over the country and undo everything that we've achieved that Americans bled for and died for to achieve in that country and quite frankly, invite back Al Qaeda, their friends. So it's a very, very dangerous, dumb move.
The thing is, Ralph, that there's a reason we have this normal policy of not negotiating with hostage takers, and particularly not terrorist hostage takers, because the belief is it will only encourage more hostage taking.
Yeah, well, certainly. And, but we have a lot of policies. We have a policy that the IRS doesn't spy on Americans. We have a policy that we protect our diplomats on the ground in places like Benghazi. This administration rarely keeps a promise. And as we've talked about, Megan, it's always about politics and political effects, not about strategy, and barely about security. Now, when I look at the situation in Afghanistan, I think Mark summed it up very, very well. They're going to wait us out because they know we're going. But I have to say that I am appalled personally that the left isn't criticizing any of this. The right will always criticize Obama. That's politics. But, you know, we've lost by far the majority of our soldiers in Afghanistan, killed and wounded, under Obama. He sent a surge, then he called off the surge and took credit for calling it off after announcing he was not going to stay in Afghanistan. You could, if you made a checklist of how to screw up Afghanistan, the Obama administration's checked every single block.
But I think that it's not just the left. I think a lot of folks on the left and the right want out. They want this 12-year war over, and they don't believe necessarily in its winnability anymore. And so if this is a fig leaf the president is after, you know, these talks with the Taliban, what do you think, Mark? I mean, are the American people going to stand behind him if that's the route he wants to go to give himself cover to get out?
Well, let's just take a look at how serious the Taliban is about negotiating. I mean, not only are they holding an American hostage, on the day that they opened their office in Qatar, they launched an attack on Bagram Air Base that killed 4 Americans on the very day that they were opening their office to negotiate with us. Their delegation in Qatar includes members of the Haqqani network, which the Obama administration just a few months ago designated a terrorist organization. So if we negotiate with this delegation, we are literally negotiating with terrorists. And look, the Clinton administration tried this already. I mean, the Clinton administration in the 1990s had over 30 negotiating sessions with the Taliban. They even sent Bill Richardson to Afghanistan. And in April 1998, the Taliban promised they would not allow Afghanistan to be used as a base for terrorism. 4 months later, al-Qaeda blew up our embassies in East Africa. And then the Clinton administration continued negotiating. And while those negotiations were in full swing, bin Laden and KSM were in Tora Bora planning 9/11. These people are murderers. They are liars. They cannot be trusted. And they're trying to buy time for us to leave so they can take over the country and invite al-Qaeda back in.
So then what kind of a fig leaf do we get, Ralph, if we negotiate with these people? And, you know, I mean, like, truly, back to, like, the beheading of children. Like, this is who's going to be across the table. So they make these promises, which are likely to be very empty. We leave. They break them. We're not going to go back in. Why even go through the ruse? Why not just, if we're out, we're out. Why do we have to have peace talks with them?
Well, it's sort of what we did at the end of Vietnam, although this is shabbier, where we wanted peace with honor to rescue America's image. In this case, it's about Obama's image. And there is no question that these peace talks, even if they go absolutely nowhere, are greatly to the Taliban's advantage. It's de facto recognition of the Taliban. In fact, it's de jure recognition of the Taliban as a serious player in the Afghan struggle. And, you know, I think Karzai has been a treacherous semi-lunatic. But for the first time, I'm finding myself in sympathy with him because he's a president. We let him steal the election. We let him have power in the country. We said we supported him. Then we went behind his back to the Taliban, basically. And that's really what we're doing to leverage him into the talks. Again, this is an utter mess. We do not have clear strategic goals. The Obama administration, I'm going to repeat myself, wants a piece of paper in the president's hand guaranteeing peace in our time, come what may.
Mark, last question to you, and that is on the subject of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl. You know, his parents want him out. Mm-hmm. They believe that he has not been well cared for, and he's an American soldier. And, you know, that if we have the opportunity to get him out in exchange for these guys, I mean, your thoughts on it, because I get it. Does it only encourage somebody else's, it's another Taliban faction to take somebody else's son or daughter? But on the other hand, you know, he served our country and he's there, and they're saying you can have him back.
It's an absolute tragedy whenever an American soldier is captured, and we should not rest until that person is returned to us or that we rescue them. But releasing 5 brutal, murderous terrorists from Guantanamo Bay is not the way to do it. Again, if you look at their military files, if you look at the own military assessment of these guys, all of them are listed as having deep ties to al-Qaeda. All of them are assessed as high risk of returning to the fight. Several of them have been accused of war crimes, of killing thousands of people, thousands of Shiites by the United Nations. So releasing these people is not a solution. But this is what they're doing. They know that Obama wants to close Guantanamo, so they're offering him a way to do something that's a win-win. Get a U.S. soldier back, reduce Guantanamo. They know he wants to withdraw from Afghanistan, so they're going to behave nicely for a little while until they can give him cover to withdraw as many troops as he possibly can. They're playing the Obama administration like a harpsichord, and it's tragic to watch.
Wow. Gentlemen, thank you.